Christmas Eve had a way of softening even the hardest men, but that night it did the opposite to him. 7 years after the divorce, Anthony DeLuca stood inside his black SUV, engine running, staring at a small house covered in warm Christmas lights. No guards, no convoy, no power display, just him, alone, holding a neatly wrapped gift he had no right to bring. He told himself it was closure, one visit, one silent gesture. Then he would disappear again. Anthony stepped out into the cold. Snow crunched softly under his shoes as he walked up the short path. The house was nothing like the penthouses or gated mansions he was used to. It was modest, clean, lived in. A wreath hung crookedly on the door, handmade, imperfect, and somehow perfect. He hesitated. For the first time in years, the Mafia boss didn't know if he should knock. Before he could decide, the door opened. Warm light spilled onto the porch, along with the smell of cinnamon and pine. And there she was, Emily Carter. Her hair was a little shorter than he remembered, loose around her shoulders. Her face looked softer, calmer, but her eyes froze the moment they met his. Shock flickered first, then something deeper, something unfinished. "Anthony," she whispered, barely audible. He opened his mouth to speak, but no words came out. And then, movement. A small figure ran across the living room behind her, laughing, socks sliding on the wooden floor. "Mom, look!" a child's voice said, bright and excited. "Santa forgot his glove!" Anthony's chest tightened. A boy stopped near the couch, holding a red mitten far too big for his small hand. He looked up, and their eyes met. The world tilted. The boy was about 7 years old, dark hair, strong brows. The same intense gray-blue eyes Anthony saw every morning in the mirror. Even the way the child tilted his head, studying a stranger with cautious curiosity, it was unmistakable. Anthony didn't breathe. Emily turned slowly, her hand instinctively reaching for the boy's shoulder. Her fingers trembled. "Go wash your hands, okay?" she said quickly. "Dinner's almost ready." The boy nodded, glanced once more at Anthony, then ran down the hallway. Silence crashed into the room. Anthony swallowed hard. "How old is he?" Emily didn't answer right away. Her jaw tightened, as if bracing herself. 7, she said. The number hit him harder than any bullet ever had. 7 years. The exact amount of time since she had walked out of his life. Anthony took a step back, gripping the gift tighter. His mind raced, counting, replaying memories, nights, arguments, the divorce that had ended everything so abruptly. His voice came out low, controlled, but strained. "Emily, may I come in?" Every instinct told her to say no. It showed on her face, but after a long second she stepped aside. Just for a minute. The door closed behind him with a soft click that echoed too loudly. The living room was cozy. Christmas decorations filled every corner. A tree stood by the window, ornaments mismatched, clearly chosen by small hands. A paper star sat crooked on top. It wasn't luxurious, but it was full of life. Anthony felt like a giant in a world that didn't belong to him. "I didn't know," he said quietly. Emily crossed her arms, creating distance. "You weren't supposed to." He looked at her sharply. "Was he?" She shook her head quickly. "Don't. Not yet." Her tone wasn't angry. It was protective. Anthony ran a hand through his hair. "I didn't come here for this," he admitted. "I just wanted to leave a gift. Apologize. I didn't expect—" He stopped, breath uneven. "Him." From the hallway, the boy's voice floated back. "Mom, can I put the star back on the tree later?" Emily closed her eyes briefly. "Yes, sweetheart." Anthony watched her in that moment. The way her voice softened. The way her entire body changed when she spoke to the child. She wasn't the woman he remembered from crowded charity galas or tense dinners surrounded by men who feared him. She was something else now, someone stronger. "You look different," he said. She let out a small, humorless laugh. "So do you, less loud." He almost smiled. The kitchen timer beeped. Emily moved to turn it off, clearly needing the distraction. "You should go." she said without looking at him. I will, Anthony replied, but not yet. She faced him. Anthony, this isn't fair. I know. His voice softened. Nothing about us ever was. A small crash came from the hallway, followed by a sheepish, "Oops." Emily sighed. I'll be right back. Anthony stood alone again, heart pounding. His gaze drifted to the framed photos on the wall. Emily and the boy at the park, at the beach, baking cookies, Halloween costumes, a life, a full one, without him. He heard footsteps and turned just as the boy appeared again, holding a plastic ornament. Mom said not to touch this one, the child said seriously, then glanced at Anthony. Who are you? Anthony crouched instinctively, bringing himself closer to the child's level. His voice came out gentler than he expected. I'm an old friend of your mom's. The boy studied him carefully. You look scary. Anthony blinked, then laughed, a real laugh. That's fair. The boy smiled, clearly pleased with himself, then ran back to the tree. Emily watched from the doorway, conflicted emotions written all over her face. You shouldn't bond with him, she said quietly. I'm not trying to, Anthony replied. But I can't pretend I didn't see what I saw. She looked away. I never betrayed you, she said suddenly. Not the way you believed. Anthony stiffened. Then why didn't you say anything? Because you didn't listen, she replied. Not accusing, just honest. And because I was scared. The weight of those words settled heavily between them. Anthony stepped closer, lowering his voice. Emily, if there's even a chance. She met his eyes, firm now. Tonight is not about answers. It's Christmas Eve. He deserves peace. If you want to talk, really talk, you'll come back tomorrow, without pressure. He nodded slowly. I will. She hesitated, then took the gift from his hands. Thank you. As Anthony turned to leave, the boy's voice rang out again. Mom? Yes, honey? Is Santa coming back? Anthony paused at the door. Emily smiled softly at her son. Yes, he always comes back. Anthony stepped into the cold night, heart pounding harder than it ever had in his dangerous world. For the first time in 7 years, he didn't feel powerful. He felt afraid and hopeful, because whatever waited behind that door, he knew his life would never be the same again. Anthony DeLuca didn't sleep. He lay on top of the covers in his penthouse, fully dressed, staring at the ceiling as if it could explain what had happened in Emily Carter's living room. The city outside was loud, but inside his head it was louder. 7. The number kept returning, sharp and exact. 7 years since the divorce. 7 years since the last time he'd stood close enough to smell her shampoo. 7 years since he'd told himself he was fine without her. And then a boy had looked up at him. Same eyes, same steady stare, and everything Anthony thought he knew had cracked. He got up before sunrise, not because he had somewhere to be, but because staying still felt impossible. Coffee tasted like nothing. The news played in the background, ignored. His phone sat on the counter like a dare. Emily's number was still saved. He'd never deleted it. He'd never called it either. At 8:17 a.m., he stopped pretending he could be patient. He didn't text. He didn't want words living forever on a screen. He called. It rang twice. Hello? Emily's voice was cautious, already braced. Emily. His own voice came out controlled, but it wasn't calm. It's me. A pause. A quiet inhale. Anthony. He didn't waste time with apologies this time. You said tomorrow. It's tomorrow. It's Christmas Eve, she replied, clipped. I know. He stared out at the pale morning sky. I'm not coming to start a fight. I'm coming to do what you asked. Talk like adults. No pressure. Silence again. He could hear movement on her end. Soft footsteps. A small voice in the background that made Anthony's stomach tighten. Emily lowered her voice. If you come, you follow my rules. Tell me. Normal, she said. For him. Anthony swallowed. Okay. And you don't ask questions in front of him, she added. Anthony's jaw tightened, but he forced it down. Okay. And you don't look at him like that. His eyes narrowed. Like what? Like you're trying to claim him with your eyes. Her tone was firm but not cruel. Anthony exhaled slowly. I'll try. Emily didn't soften. Don't try. Do it. A beat. Fine, he said. I'll do it. Another pause, then her voice dropped lower. Come at 10, not earlier. I'll be there, Anthony said. When he hung up, he stood still for a moment, hands still around the phone. He didn't feel powerful. He felt like a man walking into something he had no control over, and that terrified him more than anything in his world ever had. He left without a convoy, no extra car, no men in the shadows, just him and a single gift bag he'd grabbed from a boutique downstairs because it was the only thing he could do with his hands. He drove across the city, through quiet streets lined with lights and inflatable snowmen. People carried coffee cups, wore Santa hats, laughed like the world was simple. Anthony's world had never been simple, but Emily's house looked like it belonged in that simpler world. Warm, ordinary, safe. He parked across the street and sat for a moment, staring at the lit windows, forcing his breathing to steady. Normal, he reminded himself. He walked up the path, and before he could knock, the door opened. Emily stood there in a soft sweater and jeans, hair loosely tied back, no makeup, no armor. She looked like she'd built a life where she didn't need either. 10 o'clock, she said, glancing at his watch like she didn't trust him. Anthony's mouth twitched. I'm on time. Emily stepped aside. Come in, shoes off. Anthony blinked. Shoes off? Yes, she said, as if that was the most obvious thing in the world. Noah's always on the floor. I don't need city dirt in my house. Anthony looked down at his expensive shoes like they'd personally offended her. Then he bent and took them off without complaint. Emily's eyebrows lifted slightly, like she hadn't expected him to comply. He didn't miss it. The living room smelled like cinnamon and something sweet. The Christmas tree blinked softly in the corner, decorated with paper ornaments and handmade crafts. A little train set ran in a circle at the base. Anthony's gaze flicked to the hallway, and then he heard him. Barefoot footsteps. A voice humming off-key. A boy rounded the corner holding a roll of tape in both hands, like it was important equipment. He stopped when he saw Anthony. Noah, 7 years old, hair a shade darker than Anthony's, but the same thick brows, the same eyes, gray-blue, direct, intense in a way no child should have inherited. Noah stared up at him like he was evaluating a new teacher. Anthony made himself breathe. Normal. Emily touched Noah's shoulder lightly. Noah, this is Anthony. He's an old friend. Noah kept staring. You're the scary guy. Emily's cheeks warmed. He's not scary. Noah didn't blink. He's tall. Tall is scary. Anthony crouched a little, careful not to loom. I can't fix the tall part. Noah considered him seriously. Can you fix your face? Anthony paused, then let out a quiet breath that might have been a laugh if he allowed himself. What's wrong with my face? Noah pointed at his own eyebrows and pulled them down dramatically. You look like you're thinking about taxes. Emily covered her mouth, shoulders shaking once. Anthony stared. Taxes? Noah nodded, confident. Or jail. Emily choked out a laugh. Anthony glanced at Emily, then back to Noah. I'm not thinking about taxes. Noah narrowed his eyes. Then why do you look like that? Anthony thought for a moment, then decided honesty was safer than pretending. Because I'm not good at being in houses like this. Noah's expression softened a fraction. You're not good at houses? Anthony shook his head slightly. Not the normal kind. Noah lifted the tape. We're fixing the star. It keeps falling. Anthony stood slowly. Show me. Emily's eyes widened. Anthony. Noah grabbed Anthony's sleeve like he'd known him for years. Come on. Anthony let himself be pulled because resisting felt wrong. Noah climbed onto the couch with the confidence of a kid who believed couches existed for climbing. He reached up toward the star on top of the tree, stretched, failed, then looked at Anthony like the solution was obvious. "You're tall," Noah said. Anthony stepped closer to the tree. "Careful. That's what I've been told." Noah handed him the tape. "Fix it." Anthony took the tape like it was a weapon he should respect. He leaned in, securing the star with calm precision, fingers steady. Noah watched closely. "Wow. You did it fast." Anthony pressed the tape down. "I'm good at fixing things." Noah tilted his head. "Do you fix feelings?" The question hit harder than it should have. Emily froze behind them. Anthony turned slowly to look at the boy. His throat tightened. He forced his voice to stay even. "I'm trying to." Noah nodded like that answer made sense. "Okay." Emily exhaled quietly, almost like she'd been holding her breath. Anthony turned back to the tree, keeping his hands busy. "There, the star won't fall now." Noah clapped once. "Victory." Emily crossed her arms, trying to look stern. "You can't just recruit him into home repairs." Noah looked at her like she was the unreasonable one. "He's tall. We're using his talents." Anthony's mouth twitched. "It's a fair strategy." Emily gave Anthony a look that said, "Don't encourage him." Anthony couldn't help it. He lifted his hands slightly in surrender. "I'm not encouraging. I'm participating." Noah grinned. "See? He's learning houses." Emily sighed, but her eyes softened for a split second before she caught herself. "Kitchen," she said briskly. "We're making cookies." Noah brightened instantly. "Cookies?" Anthony followed at a respectful distance, pretending his heart wasn't pounding. In the kitchen, Emily set out bowls and ingredients with practiced speed. Noah pulled on a reindeer apron. It hung crooked on his small frame. He looked at Anthony. "Do you have an apron?" Anthony stared. "I don't." Emily opened a drawer and tossed him a plain one. "Put it on." Anthony caught it, almost offended by how casual she was with commanding him. He tied it around his waist and immediately did it wrong. Noah watched, then shook his head like a disappointed manager. "No." Anthony blinked. "No?" Noah walked up and grabbed the strings, tightening them properly. "There." Anthony held still like a statue while a 7-year-old fixed him. Emily's lips pressed together as if she was fighting a smile. "He's right. You did it wrong." Anthony looked at her. "I noticed." Noah handed Emily a measuring cup like he was running an operation. "Mom does the eggs, I do the sugar. Anthony does the stirring." Anthony nodded slowly. "Understood." Emily raised an eyebrow at Noah. "Since when are you the boss?" Noah pointed at his apron. "I have uniform authority." Emily muttered, "He gets that from someone." But her eyes flicked briefly to Anthony when she said it, and the air shifted. Anthony said nothing. He didn't want to give his voice too much power in this room. Noah dumped sugar into the bowl. Half landed inside. The rest dusted the counter like snow. Emily inhaled. "Noah." Noah stared at the sugar like it had betrayed him. It jumped. Anthony picked up a cloth without being asked and wiped the counter. "Sugar doesn't jump. It waits for you to mess up." Noah gasped. "That's rude." Anthony shrugged slightly. "It's honest." Noah looked at Emily. "He's mean." Emily didn't miss a beat. "He's realistic." Noah narrowed his eyes. "This kitchen is hostile." Anthony looked at him seriously. "Then we negotiate peace." Noah considered. "Okay, I want 2 cookies before dinner." Emily snapped. "No." Noah pointed at Anthony. "Judge." Anthony paused like he was actually thinking. 1 cookie. Noah's face lit up. "He's fair." Emily stared at Anthony. "You're siding with him?" Anthony kept his tone calm. "I'm compromising." Emily shook her head, but she was smiling despite herself, and the sight of her smile hit Anthony like a memory he wasn't ready for. Noah mixed with wild enthusiasm. Emily cracked eggs, added vanilla, and tried to keep the chaos contained. Anthony stirred slowly, steady hands doing their best with a task that shouldn't matter, but somehow did, because it was normal. Because it was something Emily had been doing without him for 7 years. Noah reached for the spoon. "Taste test," Emily said. 1. Noah dipped the spoon into the dough and immediately offered it to Anthony like it was a ceremonial offering. Try. Anthony hesitated, then leaned in and tasted. His eyebrows lifted slightly. Noah watched him like a judge again. Well? Anthony swallowed. Good. Noah grinned. We're talented. Emily corrected. He means you're messy. Noah ignored her and leaned closer to Anthony. Do you live in a big house? Anthony glanced at Emily, then back to Noah. Yes. Noah's eyes widened. Does it have a slide? Anthony blinked. A slide? Noah nodded eagerly. From your room to the kitchen. Emily pinched the bridge of her nose. Noah. Anthony's mouth twitched. No slide. Noah looked genuinely disappointed. Then what's the point? Emily laughed out loud, quick, surprised, and Anthony's gaze snapped to her. He hadn't heard that sound in years. For a second she looked like the woman he used to know, the one who laughed with her whole face. Then she caught herself and looked away, focusing on the cookie tray like it had offended her. Emily slid the tray into the oven and set the timer. Her hands moved with purpose. Her voice stayed practical. We're going to Grandma's later. Noah's excited. I want no tension. Noah yelled from the living room. I am very excited. Emily called back. Inside voice. Noah replied. This is my inside voice. Anthony let out a quiet breath that might have been laughter. Emily glanced at him. Don't laugh. Anthony lifted a hand slightly. I didn't. Emily narrowed her eyes. Your face did. Anthony nodded slowly, as if accepting defeat. Fine. The timer ticked. The kitchen warmed. Noah ran in and out, grabbing sprinkles, arguing that red sprinkles were stronger than green ones. Emily corrected him. Anthony listened like he was learning a new language. At some point, Noah brought in a snow globe and shook it violently. Emily warned. Careful. Noah ignored her. Look, tiny city. He held it out to Anthony. Do you have a city? Anthony stared at the snow globe, then at Noah. Not in a globe. Noah frowned. That's sad. Anthony replied, dead serious. It is. Noah nodded, satisfied. You should get one. Emily couldn't stop herself. She laughed again, softer this time. Anthony looked at her like he wanted to hold that sound in his hands. When Noah disappeared again, Emily finally turned to Anthony, lowering her voice. You're doing okay. Anthony's eyes held hers. I'm trying. Emily's expression sharpened. Don't try, remember? Anthony gave a small nod. I'm doing. Emily studied him, suspicious of how easy he made it look. But Anthony wasn't relaxed. His body was controlled, yes, but there was a tightness under it, like he was holding back a storm of questions. Emily leaned against the counter. You're not allowed to ask. Anthony's jaw flexed. I know. Say it, Emily insisted. Anthony met her eyes. I won't ask in front of him. Emily's shoulders eased slightly. Good. Anthony's voice dropped quieter. But you were going to tell me tonight. Emily's stomach tightened. Yes. The simple word felt like stepping onto thin ice. Noah ran back in, holding a roll of ribbon, and promptly tripped over it. He caught himself at the last second and declared, I meant to do that. Emily said, Sure. Noah pointed at Anthony. Did you see my rescue move? Anthony nodded solemnly. Very impressive. Noah leaned in closer. You should clap. Anthony clapped once, slow and serious. Noah beamed like he'd won an award. Emily watched them and felt her chest ache with something she didn't want to name. Because Anthony didn't look like he was acting. He looked like he was trying to fit himself into a picture he had missed, and a dangerous part of Emily wanted to let him. By afternoon, the house was full of small, ordinary moments that somehow felt huge. Noah insisted Anthony help him build a tiny cookie village on a plate. Anthony placed gumdrops with the careful precision of a man signing contracts. Noah approved each placement with intense seriousness. Emily washed dishes, pretending she wasn't watching. When the cookies cooled, Noah forced Anthony to taste one and rate it. Anthony said, 10. Noah narrowed his eyes. That's too easy. You have to say why. Anthony paused. Because it tastes like Christmas. Noah stared for a beat, then whispered dramatically, That was beautiful. Emily rolled her eyes, but her lips curved. Noah insisted on playing Christmas music. He danced badly on purpose and tried to teach Anthony. Anthony stood stiffly at first. Noah grabbed his hands and moved them side to side. No, like this. Anthony tried, awkward and careful. Emily laughed again, genuine, helpless. And when Anthony looked at her, something in his eyes softened so much it made her breath catch. For a second, the room felt too small, too warm, too intimate. Emily busied herself with wrapping paper to avoid the way her body still reacted to Anthony's presence. She cut tape too quickly and it stuck to her finger. Great, she muttered. Anthony stepped closer. Here. He gently took her hand, pulling the tape off with slow care. His fingers brushed her skin. It was nothing. It was everything. Emily froze. She didn't pull away fast enough. Anthony's thumb lingered for a half-second longer than necessary. His voice was quiet. You still wear the same lotion. Emily's heart kicked hard. Don't. Anthony's eyes held hers. Don't what? Don't notice things, Emily whispered. Anthony's jaw tightened, not angry, controlled. I can't help noticing you. Emily's breath caught. Noah yelled from the living room, Mom! Anthony! Come see! Emily pulled her hand back quickly, forcing herself to move. Coming! They walked into the living room. Noah had lined up toy cars in a perfect row. This is the parade, Noah announced. They're going to the North Pole. Anthony nodded like this was serious business. Do they have permits? Noah blinked. Permits? Emily laughed. Anthony didn't even look embarrassed. He kept his face serious on purpose. Noah pointed to one car. That's the leader. Anthony leaned closer. What's his name? Noah whispered. Captain Snow. Anthony nodded. Strong name. Noah looked pleased. You're good at this. Emily watched the interaction, half amused, half overwhelmed. This was what Anthony could have been. If life had gone differently. If the divorce hadn't happened. If. Emily cut off the thoughts. They were dangerous. At 4:30 p.m., Emily's phone rang. Her mother. Emily answered, keeping her tone light. Hi, Mom. Her mother's voice was warm. You still coming? Yes. A pause, then quieter. I saw a black SUV out front earlier. Emily's pulse jumped. Mom! I'm not stupid, her mother said. Is he there? Emily glanced toward Anthony, who was helping Noah tape a paper snowflake to the window like it was a military operation. Yes, Emily admitted. Another pause. Is Noah okay? Yes, Emily said firmly. He's fine. Her mother sighed softly. And are you okay? Emily's throat tightened. I'm fine. Her mother's voice dropped. Emily, peace is fragile. Be careful what you invite back in. Emily closed her eyes for a second. I know. Her mother softened. I'm not telling you what to do. I'm reminding you who you are. Bring the pie. And bring your common sense. Emily let out a small breath. I will. When she hung up, Anthony was watching her. He knows, Emily said quietly. Anthony's eyebrows lifted. Your mother? She saw your car. Anthony nodded once like he accepted the consequence. I can leave if you want. Emily stared at him. She expected the old Anthony to demand his place. Instead, he offered to step back. It made her chest tighten. No, she said. We're still going. Noah will lose his mind if we don't. Noah yelled from across the room. I will lose my mind. Emily called. Stop listening. Noah yelled back. I heard that. Anthony's mouth twitched. Emily pointed at him. No laughing. Anthony lifted both hands. I'm silent. Emily narrowed her eyes. Your face is not. Anthony nodded solemnly. I'll work on it. They left just after 5. Emily drove with Noah in the back seat, singing loudly. Anthony followed behind, keeping distance like he was trying to prove he could be respectful in her world. Emily's mother's house was bright with decorations. An inflatable Santa leaned slightly to one side like it was tired. A plastic reindeer blinked unevenly. Noah ran to the door before Emily could even unbuckle him. "Grandma!" he screamed. Emily's mother opened the door and scooped him into a hug, laughing. "There's my favorite person!" Noah pointed behind him. "Santa's helper is here too." Emily's mother froze for half a second, then looked up as Anthony stepped out of his SUV. Anthony walked up the path slowly, posture controlled. He looked like a man entering a place where power meant nothing. Emily's mother, Linda Bennett, stood tall in her apron, hands on her hips. Her eyes were sharp, protective. "Anthony," she said. "Mrs. Bennett," Anthony replied, respectful. Linda's gaze swept over him. "Shoes off in my house, too." Anthony blinked once, then nodded. "Yes, ma'am." Noah whispered loudly to Emily. "He's obedient." Emily whispered back, "He's learning." Inside, the house was warm and loud. Emily's stepfather, Tom Bennett, stepped out of the kitchen holding a dish towel and a skeptical expression. Tom's eyes landed on Anthony and stayed there. "Anthony," Tom said, calm but guarded. "Tom," Anthony replied. Tom looked at Emily briefly, then back at Anthony. "Didn't expect to see you." Anthony didn't flinch. "Neither did I." Noah ran in between them like a referee. "We brought cookies and a pie, and Anthony fixed the star." Linda looked at Anthony sharply. "You fixed the star?" Anthony nodded once. "Yes." Linda stared for a beat, then said, "Well, that star's been falling for 2 weeks, so thank you." Anthony blinked like he hadn't expected gratitude. "You're welcome." Dinner prep turned into controlled chaos. Linda gave instructions. Tom pretended he wasn't watching Anthony. Noah narrated everything like it was a documentary. Anthony offered to carry dishes. Linda hesitated, then handed him a tray like she was testing him. Anthony carried it carefully, no attitude. Tom watched closely. Noah ran up to Anthony and whispered, "Grandpa doesn't trust you." Anthony replied quietly, "That's fair." Noah nodded. "You have to earn it." Anthony looked at him. "I'm trying." Noah lifted a finger. "No, you have to do." Anthony paused, then nodded once. "You're right." Emily overheard and felt her throat tighten. Noah climbed onto a chair at the table and declared, "We're all eating together because it's Christmas Eve and the rules are different." Linda sighed. "Who taught you that?" Noah pointed at Emily. "Mom said it." Emily corrected, "I did not." Noah shrugged. "Your eyes said it." Anthony's mouth twitched. Linda looked between Emily and Anthony, then said to Emily, "Your kid is dramatic." Emily replied dryly, "He gets it from someone." Linda smirked. "He gets it from you." Anthony didn't speak, but his eyes stayed on Emily like he agreed with Linda in a way that was too personal. Dinner was surprisingly normal. Noah told stories. Linda laughed. Tom relaxed slightly when he saw Anthony wasn't trying to dominate the room. Anthony listened more than he spoke, responding to Noah with calm patience that didn't feel forced. At one point, Noah spilled water. He froze, eyes wide like the world had ended. Anthony grabbed napkins instantly and wiped it up before Noah could panic. "It's fine," he said. Noah stared at him. "You didn't yell." Anthony's eyebrows lifted. "Should I?" Noah thought hard. "No." Anthony nodded. "Then I won't." Noah looked relieved and leaned against him casually, then without warning climbed right into Anthony's lap like it was the most natural thing in the world. Emily's breath caught. Anthony went still. Tom's eyes sharpened instantly. Linda's gaze flicked to Emily. Emily stood frozen, heart pounding. Anthony didn't hug Noah too tight. He didn't hold him like he owned him. He simply rested a hand lightly on Noah's back, protective in a careful, restrained way. Noah yawned and muttered, "You're not that scary." Anthony's voice was soft. "Good." Noah's head drooped against Anthony's shoulder. Emily watched the scene like it was a dream she didn't know if she deserved. Because Noah looked safe. and Anthony looked human. The Christmas movie played in the background. Noah fell asleep fully, breathing slow and steady, still on Anthony's lap. Anthony didn't move. Linda approached quietly and looked down at Noah, then at Anthony. "You can put him in the guest room." Anthony's voice came out low. "He's comfortable." Linda studied him for a long moment, then nodded once. "Fine, but don't you dare let him fall." Anthony replied softly, "I won't." Emily swallowed hard. Tom walked over, calm but firm. "Emily." Emily stepped closer, heart hammering. Tom looked at her gently, then glanced at Anthony. "If you two are going to talk, do it quietly. No drama. Noah deserves peace." Anthony met Tom's gaze without arrogance. "Agreed." Tom nodded once and walked away. Linda also retreated into the kitchen, purposely giving them space. Emily bent and carefully lifted Noah from Anthony's lap, carrying him down the hallway to the guest room. She tucked him in, kissed his forehead. Noah mumbled in his sleep, "Santa's helper." Emily whispered, "Go to sleep." She stepped out and found Anthony waiting near the back door, coat already on, expression tight with patience he was forcing. Emily's heart beat hard. "Come back to my house." Anthony nodded once. "Tonight." Emily swallowed. "After he's asleep." Anthony's gaze held hers. "You're going to tell me the truth." Emily's voice was quiet. "Yes." Anthony took one step closer, stopping just short of touching her. "Emily, if you tell me what I think you're going to tell me." Emily's breath caught. "Then everything changes." Anthony's eyes darkened, not with anger, something deeper. "And you're still making me wait." Emily forced herself to hold his gaze. "Because I need to know you can be in his life without turning it into a war." Anthony's jaw tightened. He nodded slowly. "I can." Emily whispered, "Prove it." Anthony's voice dropped. "I'm trying." Emily's eyes narrowed. "No." Anthony paused, then corrected himself, softer. "I'm doing." Emily's chest tightened. Anthony leaned in slightly, voice low and careful. "If I kiss you right now, will you regret it?" Emily's breath caught hard. For a second she couldn't speak. And that silence was the most dangerous thing between them. She stepped back first, not because she didn't want it, because she wanted it too much. "Come," she said, voice tight. "We're going. Before I change my mind about letting you back into my house." Anthony's eyes held hers for a beat longer than necessary. Then he nodded once. And as they walked out into the cold night together, Emily felt it, clear and unavoidable. Tonight wasn't just a conversation. Tonight was the moment she would say the truth out loud. And Anthony DeLuca would decide what kind of man he was going to be after he heard it. Emily's house felt different at night. Not because the Christmas lights blinked softer or because the neighborhood got quieter, though it did. It felt different because Anthony DeLuca stood inside it again, near her coat rack, watching Emily lock the door like he was trying to memorize every detail of a life he'd never been allowed to touch. Noah was asleep in the guest room at Linda's house. Emily had carried him to the car with a blanket wrapped around him like a burrito, and Noah had mumbled "Santa's helper" the whole way home. Anthony had followed behind in silence, hands tight on the steering wheel, jaw set like he was holding his entire world still. Now, back in the living room, the quiet was louder than any argument. Emily took a breath and gestured toward the couch. "Sit." Anthony didn't sit right away. He looked toward the hallway, as if he expected Noah to run out again and save them from whatever this was. Then he finally lowered himself onto the couch, careful, like even the cushions might judge him. Emily didn't sit beside him. She stayed standing for a moment, arms crossed, facing the tree instead of him. It was a tactic. If she looked into his eyes for too long, she might lose control of her own voice. Anthony spoke first, low and restrained. "He fell asleep on me." Emily nodded once, still not turning. "He falls asleep on anyone who stays still long enough." Anthony's mouth twitched, but he didn't smile. "So you're saying I'm furniture?" Emily finally looked at him. I'm saying Noah is easy to love. The words landed sharply, even though she hadn't meant them as a weapon. Anthony's gaze dropped for a second, then came back up. You did it alone. Emily swallowed. Yes. Silence returned, thick and heavy. Emily moved toward the kitchen, not because she needed anything, but because she needed motion. She grabbed 2 glasses and filled them with water, hands steady even though her heart wasn't. Anthony watched her. You're stalling. Emily set the glasses on the coffee table and sat in the armchair across from him, putting distance between them on purpose. I'm breathing. Anthony nodded once. Okay. Emily exhaled slowly. Before we talk about him, I need you to understand something. Anthony's voice stayed calm, but the strain showed in his eyes. Tell me. Emily held his gaze. You don't get to be angry in my house. Anthony blinked. Emily, I'm serious, she cut in, firm. No yelling, no slamming doors, no threats. No, I'll handle it like you used to. Anthony's jaw tightened. Then he nodded once, controlled. I won't. Emily studied him to see if he was performing. Anthony added, quieter. I'm not here to scare you. I'm here to understand. Her chest tightened at the word understand, because 7 years ago, that was what she had needed, and he hadn't given it. Emily's voice dropped. Good. Anthony leaned forward slightly. Is he mine? Emily's throat tightened. The question was direct, and somehow it still felt like stepping off a cliff. She didn't answer right away. Anthony didn't push. That alone startled her. Emily stared at the lights on the tree. You remember the divorce? Anthony's eyes didn't leave her. Every detail. Emily swallowed. You think you do? Anthony's jaw flexed. Emily. She held up one hand. Let me say it my way, or I won't say it at all. Anthony exhaled slowly. Okay. Emily's voice stayed steady, simple, not poetic. The night you left that courthouse, I went home alone. Anthony's gaze tightened. Emily continued, forcing herself not to soften. I didn't go to anyone. I didn't run into someone else's bed. I didn't do anything you accused me of. Anthony's eyes flickered. I never... You did, Emily said, not loud, just clear. You didn't say the words, but you believed them. You looked at me like I was dirty. Anthony's expression shifted with pain. He didn't deny it. Emily's hands clenched around her own knees. 3 days after the divorce, I got sick in the morning. Anthony went perfectly still. Emily watched his face tighten, like the pieces were assembling against his will. I didn't want to believe it, she went on. I took a test, then another. Then I went to a clinic because I thought maybe I was mistaken. Anthony's voice came out rougher than before. And you weren't. Emily shook her head once. No. The room felt too quiet. Even the tree lights looked louder. Anthony's eyes locked on hers. Why didn't you tell me? Emily's laugh was small and sharp. You want the honest answer? Yes. Emily leaned back slightly, forcing herself to stay in control. Because you had already decided who I was. Anthony's jaw tightened. I would have... Emily cut him off again, firm. You would have done what you always did. You would have taken over. Anthony stared at her. Emily continued, voice steady. You would have put men outside my door. You would have demanded I move into a place I didn't choose. You would have turned my pregnancy into a security operation. And you would have told yourself it was love. Anthony swallowed hard, his hands clasped tightly together. I would have protected you. I know, Emily said quietly. That's the problem. You didn't know how to protect me without controlling me. Anthony's eyes darkened, not angry, something heavier. So you ran. I didn't run, Emily said, sharper. I left. Anthony's voice dropped. With my child. Emily's breath caught. She didn't answer, and the silence answered for her. Anthony stared at her, chest rising slowly. You're telling me he is. Emily shook her head quickly, still trying to hold the line. I'm telling you the timing. I'm telling you the truth about me. Anthony's jaw clenched. Emily. Her voice softened. but she kept it firm. I never slept with anyone else while we were together. I never cheated. That part is simple. Anthony's eyes flickered like a man hearing air after drowning. Emily continued, quieter. The rest wasn't simple. Anthony leaned forward, elbows on his knees, like if he sat still enough he could stop his own emotions from taking over. Say it. Emily swallowed hard. I didn't do a paternity test. Anthony froze. What? Emily's cheeks warmed with defensive frustration. Don't say it like that. How else am I supposed to? Anthony stopped himself. He closed his eyes for a second, taking a slow breath, and when he opened them, his voice was controlled again. Why didn't you do it? Emily's shoulders lifted slightly. Because I didn't need a paper to tell me what my eyes already told me. He's yours. Anthony's breath caught. Emily kept going because if she stopped, she might not finish. But I didn't want to hand you a document. I didn't want to start a war in your world with a test result as the spark. Anthony's voice went low. A war. Emily nodded. You think I didn't see things, Anthony? I wasn't blind. I knew how people looked at me when they knew I was with you. I knew how fast your world could turn on someone. Anthony's face tightened. No one would have touched you. Emily laughed softly, no humor. You don't get it. Sometimes people don't touch you. They touch everything around you. Your job, your friends, your family. They make your life small until you can't breathe. Anthony stared at her, silent. Emily's voice dropped. I wanted Noah to have a life where the biggest emergency was spilled water and too much frosting. Anthony swallowed hard. So you chose a smaller life. Emily nodded. A safer one. Anthony's eyes flicked toward the hallway, toward Noah's room in her house. And did you love him alone for 7 years? Emily's chest tightened. Yes. Anthony's voice cracked slightly, almost imperceptible. Did he ever ask about his father? Emily stared at the tree for a second, because looking at Anthony felt dangerous. Yes. Anthony's hands tightened together. What did you tell him? Emily's throat tightened. That his dad wasn't ready, that sometimes adults make mistakes, that it wasn't his fault. Anthony flinched like the words hit somewhere tender. Emily added softer. He's smart. He stopped asking after a while. Anthony's eyes lowered. Because he assumed the answer. Emily didn't correct him. Because the truth was, Noah had built his own story, one where Emily was enough, one where the missing father was a blank space he learned to live with. Anthony stared at his hands. You should hate me. Emily's voice came quiet. I did. For a while. Anthony looked up sharply. Emily continued, honest. But hate is exhausting. And I had a baby. So I stopped. Anthony's jaw tightened. And now? Emily exhaled. Now I'm not sure what I feel. Anthony's gaze held hers. It was intense but not aggressive. Tell me. Emily's voice dropped. I feel angry that you're here and it feels familiar. Like my body remembers you, even when my brain doesn't want to. Anthony's throat moved as he swallowed. Emily. She continued anyway, because it was the truth. I feel scared that Noah will get attached, and then you'll disappear again. Anthony's eyes hardened with determination. I won't. Emily lifted a hand. Don't promise. Anthony stopped himself mid-breath. He nodded once. Okay, I won't promise. Emily studied him. Then what will you do? Anthony's voice was low, steady. I'll show you. Emily's chest tightened at the simplicity. It sounded like something he would have said years ago, but this time he wasn't using it to end the conversation. He was offering it as a plan. Emily leaned back, exhaling slowly. There's more. Anthony's eyes sharpened. Tell me. Emily's hands tightened on the armrest. The reason you thought I cheated, it wasn't random. Anthony went still. Emily continued, careful. I didn't just wake up one day and decide you didn't trust me. Something happened. Anthony's jaw flexed. What happened? Emily's voice stayed simple. Someone wanted us apart. Anthony's eyes narrowed slightly. Who? Emily shook her head. I never knew for sure. Anthony's gaze stayed locked on her. Emily. She forced herself to keep going. I had a friend back then, a woman from one of the charity events. She was always around, always smiling too much. Anthony's face tightened, as if he already knew the name she hadn't said. Emily continued. She showed me photos, messages, something that looked like proof. Anthony's voice went colder. Of you? Emily nodded. Of you, with someone else? Anthony froze. Emily's voice stayed steady. I didn't believe it at first. But the timing. The way you were gone. The way you came home exhausted and distant. Anthony's jaw tightened. I was working. I know, Emily said quietly. But I was alone. And then you accused me first. Anthony stared at her, silent, breathing slow. Emily's voice shook slightly for the first time. It felt like you had already decided to leave me. So I left first. Anthony's voice came low, controlled. Those photos? Emily nodded. I later realized they were manipulated, not fully fake, just framed. Cropped, timed, enough to poison the air. Anthony leaned back, eyes dark. Why didn't you come to me? Emily's answer came quickly. Because you didn't come to me. Anthony's expression shifted, pain, regret, the weight of it sitting heavy in his shoulders. Emily exhaled. I'm not telling you this so you can hunt someone down. Anthony's jaw tightened, then he forced it loose. I won't do anything reckless. Emily stared at him. This is me asking for the first time, please. Anthony held her gaze, then nodded once. Okay. Emily didn't know if she believed him, but she heard the effort. A silence passed, not hostile, just full. Anthony's voice softened. May I see him? Here, in the morning. Emily's chest tightened again. You saw him today. I saw him, Anthony said quietly. I didn't know him. Emily swallowed. The request was simple, reasonable, and still terrifying. She didn't answer fast enough. Anthony added, gentle but firm, Emily, I'm not asking to take him. I'm asking to be near him. Emily's breath caught. She looked toward the hallway, toward Noah's door. The thought of Noah waking up to Anthony in the kitchen felt like a dream and a threat at the same time. Emily whispered, He wakes up early. Anthony's mouth twitched slightly. So do I. Emily let out a small, reluctant breath that might have been a laugh. He'll ask you questions. Anthony's gaze warmed a fraction. Then I'll answer them. Emily stared at him. What will you tell him? Anthony's voice went quiet. The truth, the simplest one. Emily's throat tightened. Which is? Anthony looked toward Noah's door, then back at Emily, eyes steady. That I should have been here. Emily's eyes stung. She looked away quickly, blinking it back. You can't say that to him. Anthony's gaze stayed calm. Then tell me what I can say. Emily swallowed, forcing herself to be practical. You can say you're a friend. For now. Anthony nodded slowly. For now. He said it like he would accept the limit, but not let it be the final shape of things. Emily stood abruptly, needing motion again. You should go. Anthony didn't move right away. Emily. She turned to him. Anthony's voice was lower, softer, and it slid under her defenses in a way she hated. Do you still want me? Emily's breath caught. She hated the question, because it didn't belong in this conversation, and because it belonged in every conversation they'd ever had. She forced herself to answer honestly, without giving him too much. I want what I used to have. Anthony's eyes held hers. We can't go back. I know, Emily whispered. Anthony stood slowly, and for a second the room felt smaller. He didn't touch her. He didn't corner her. He simply stopped close enough that she could smell him, clean, warm, familiar. Anthony's voice dropped. Then we go forward. Emily's pulse thudded hard. She should have stepped back, She should have ended it. Instead, she stayed still. Anthony's hand lifted, hesitated, then gently brushed a loose strand of hair away from her face. The touch was light, respectful, but it sent heat through her anyway. Emily's voice came out quiet. "Anthony." He looked at her like he was asking permission without words. Emily's breath shook slightly. Then from the hallway, a soft noise, Noah shifting in his sleep, pulled reality back in. Emily stepped away, heart pounding. "Go." Anthony's jaw tightened, but he nodded. "Okay." He moved toward the door, then paused with his hand on the knob. Without turning around, he said, "Tomorrow morning, can I bring breakfast?" Emily blinked, caught off guard. "Breakfast." Anthony's voice stayed calm. "Pancakes, eggs, something normal." Emily stared at his back. The Mafia boss offering pancakes like an apology. It was so absurd it almost made her smile. Almost. Emily answered carefully. "Noah likes pancakes." Anthony nodded once. "Then pancakes." He opened the door, cold air rushing in, then looked back at her one last time. His eyes were steady, serious. "Emily," he said softly, "if he is mine, I'm not leaving again." Emily's chest tightened. She whispered, "Don't promise." Anthony held her gaze. "Then watch what I do." And then he stepped out into the night, leaving Emily standing in her living room with the tree lights blinking, her heart racing, and one terrifying question circling in her mind. When Noah wakes up tomorrow, what will he see in Anthony's face? And will that be enough to change everything again? Morning came early in Emily's house, the way it always did, quiet for exactly 3 minutes, then loud. Noah's feet padded down the hallway, then stopped. He stood in front of the Christmas tree like he was checking if it had moved overnight. He leaned closer to the star Anthony had taped, eyes narrowed in suspicion. "It's still up," Noah whispered, impressed. From the kitchen, Emily heard the small voice and smiled to herself, until her phone buzzed, a single text. "Anthony, outside, pancakes, no pressure." Emily's stomach tightened automatically. She stared at the screen, then at the clock. 7:12 a.m. He really meant early. She took a slow breath, walked to the front window, and saw him standing on the porch holding 2 paper bags, dressed in a dark coat, hair neat, face serious as always, except his eyes looked different, less cold, more careful. Emily opened the door a few inches. "You didn't have to." Anthony held up the bag like evidence. "I said pancakes." Emily's eyes flicked down. The smell hit her instantly. Warm butter, syrup, coffee. Noah appeared behind her like a tiny shadow. "Is that Santa's helper?" Emily's chest tightened. "Noah." Anthony crouched slightly, as if he'd practiced it. "Good morning." Noah stared at the bags. "Are those for us or for your serious face?" Anthony paused, then said, dead serious, "Both." Noah nodded, accepting this logic. "Okay, come in. Shoes off." Anthony blinked. "Shoes off," he repeated. Noah pointed at the floor like it was law. "House rules." Anthony glanced at Emily. Emily tried to look stern. "He's not wrong." Anthony bent and removed his shoes without comment. Noah watched, pleased. "That's better," Noah said. "Now you look less like taxes." Anthony's mouth twitched. "I'm improving." Noah walked ahead like a tour guide. "Kitchen is there, tree is there. My room is not for grown-ups." Emily whispered to Anthony as they followed. "He's been like this since birth." Anthony's voice came low. "I can tell." In the kitchen, Emily set the bags on the counter and opened them. Pancakes, syrup, fruit, coffee. Simple, normal, and somehow emotional in a way she didn't want to admit. Noah climbed onto a chair immediately. "I want the biggest one." Emily reached for plates. "You're getting a normal one." Noah pointed at Anthony. "Judge." Anthony looked between them like this was a real court. "Medium." Noah squinted. "That's not helpful." Anthony nodded. "I'm learning compromise." Noah sighed dramatically. "Fine. Medium." Emily handed Noah a fork and sat across from him. Anthony remained standing, as if he wasn't sure where he belonged. Emily noticed and kept her voice calm. Sit. Anthony sat slowly, careful, as if he might break the chair by existing. Noah stabbed a pancake and took a bite. His eyes widened. Wow, these are dangerously good. Emily raised an eyebrow. Dangerously? Noah nodded. Like, you might eat too much and become a pancake. Anthony replied, that sounds like a peaceful way to go. Noah looked horrified. No. I need you to stay tall so you can fix the star forever. Anthony paused, then nodded once. Understood. Emily watched Anthony's face as he looked at Noah. Steady, quiet, controlled. But the tenderness was there, underneath all that discipline, and it made Emily's chest ache. Noah pointed at Anthony's coffee. Do you like coffee? Anthony nodded. Yes. Noah leaned forward. My mom likes coffee too. She gets grumpy without it. Emily shot Noah a look. I do not. Noah didn't blink. Yes, you do. Anthony's mouth twitched. He's very honest. Emily sighed. He's very loud. Noah took another bite and suddenly asked, why don't you smile more? The question hit the table like a dropped plate. Emily froze. She forced herself to keep breathing, to keep her face neutral. Anthony didn't look at Emily right away. He looked at Noah, careful. I'm not used to it. Noah tilted his head, not used to smiling. Anthony's voice stayed steady. Not used to being in a place where it's easy. Noah thought about that, chewing slowly. Then he nodded like he understood, even if he didn't fully. You can practice here. Anthony's throat moved as he swallowed. Okay. Noah's eyebrows lifted. That was easy. Emily's grip tightened on her mug. Anthony glanced at her then, just for a second, and she saw it. Gratitude and regret tangled together. Emily looked away first. After breakfast, Noah ran to the living room to turn on Christmas music at a volume that made Emily wince. Anthony stood by the sink, quietly gathering trash and stacking plates. Emily watched him for a moment, then said low, you don't have to clean. Anthony didn't stop. I want to. Emily's voice came softer than she intended. You always wanted to fix things after you broke them. Anthony paused, still holding a plate. He didn't turn around immediately. Yes. Emily's heart thudded. She hadn't expected agreement. Anthony set the plate down and finally faced her. You told me to show you, so I'm showing you. Emily crossed her arms, not to be defensive, because her body needed a boundary. One morning doesn't erase 7 years. Anthony nodded. I know. Emily studied him, suspicious. Then why are you acting like you can walk back into this life? Anthony's voice stayed calm. I'm not walking back in. I'm stepping in slowly, the way you allow. Emily's stomach tightened at the word allow, because it sounded respectful, and that made it harder to hold her walls up. From the living room, Noah yelled, Mom, he's not dancing. Emily called back, He doesn't have to dance. Noah yelled back, Yes, he does. It's Christmas Eve. Emily sighed and looked at Anthony. He invented a holiday. Anthony's mouth twitched. He's creative. Noah appeared in the kitchen doorway, waving his arms wildly. Come on, you have to dance like this. Anthony stared at the movement like it was a complicated crime scene. Emily couldn't help it. She laughed, short and real. Anthony's gaze snapped to her laugh like it was a sound he'd been starving for. Noah grabbed Anthony's hands again and tried to force him into motion. Anthony moved stiffly, awkward, clearly terrible at it. Noah stopped and stared. You dance like a robot. Anthony replied, I'm efficient. Noah shook his head. No, you're tragic. Emily laughed again, louder. Anthony looked at her, and for a second, his serious face softened into something that almost looked like a smile. Emily's breath caught. Noah pointed. There, that. Do that again. Anthony blinked. Do what? Noah clapped. Smile. Anthony's mouth tightened like he wasn't sure how to do it on command. Emily tried to save him. Noah, don't. Noah cut in. He looks better when he smiles. Tell him. Emily froze. Anthony's eyes locked on Emily, waiting. Emily swallowed, voice quiet, honest despite herself. You do. The air shifted. Anthony's gaze stayed on her like the room had gone silent. Noah, satisfied, ran away again, leaving them alone in the kitchen with Christmas music playing too cheerfully for the tension that had just landed between them. Anthony spoke first, voice low. You meant that. Emily looked down at the counter. I said it, didn't I? Anthony stepped a little closer, not invading, just closing the space. Emily, I don't want to take over your life. Emily's throat tightened. Then what do you want? Anthony's eyes held hers. A place in it, the right way. Emily's heart pounded. She should have answered with rules, schedules, logic. Instead, what came out was smaller and more dangerous. And if Noah gets attached? Anthony didn't hesitate. Then I stay. Emily's eyes narrowed. Don't promise. Anthony nodded once, like he'd heard the lesson. Then I'll keep showing you. Emily stared at him, searching for the old arrogance. She didn't see it. She saw a man trying to be careful with something fragile, something he should have protected years ago. Noah's voice rang from the living room again. Mom, I want to show him my room. Emily's pulse jumped. Noah said grown-ups aren't allowed in there. Noah popped his head around the corner. I changed the rule. Emily opened her mouth to argue. Anthony spoke calmly. Only if your mom says yes. Noah froze, betrayed. Why would you say that? Anthony replied, serious. Because she's the boss here. Noah stared at Emily like this was shocking new information. Emily blinked, caught off guard by Anthony backing her authority without trying to replace it. She exhaled. 5 minutes, and you don't touch anything. Noah cheered. Yes! Noah dragged Anthony down the hallway like he was showing off a prize. Emily followed, heart tight. In Noah's room, superhero posters covered one wall. A small bed sat under a blanket with tiny snowflakes. Toy cars were lined up like a museum display. Noah stood proudly. This is my room. This is my car collection. This is my secret treasure. He pulled open a drawer and showed a small box filled with random things. A shiny rock, a broken bracelet, a tiny plastic dinosaur. Anthony leaned closer, amused. That's treasure. Noah nodded. Yes, don't steal it. Anthony looked at him seriously. I won't. Noah studied Anthony's face, then asked suddenly, Do you have kids? Emily's breath stopped. Anthony paused. His eyes flicked to Emily, quick, controlled, then back to Noah. His voice was steady, careful. No. Noah narrowed his eyes. So you don't know kid stuff? Anthony nodded. I'm learning. Noah stared at him for a long moment, then said, very quietly, You can learn here. Emily felt her throat tighten. Anthony's expression shifted, softened in a way that didn't look practiced at all. He swallowed. Okay. Noah smiled, then pointed at a framed drawing on the wall. A stick figure mom, a stick figure kid, and a blank space beside them. Emily's chest tightened as she noticed it for the first time in months. Noah spoke casually, like it didn't matter. That one is unfinished. Anthony stared at the drawing. His voice came out low. Who's missing? Noah shrugged. Just someone. Emily's heart pounded so hard she felt it in her ears. Anthony turned his head slightly, eyes dark with understanding, and looked at Emily like he was seeing the cost of 7 years in one simple picture. Emily forced herself to breathe. Noah, 5 minutes are over. Noah groaned. No! Emily guided them back out. But as Anthony walked past the drawing again, he slowed, just for a second, like he wanted to reach out and fix the blank space with his hands. He didn't. He just kept walking, jaw tight. In the hallway, Emily stopped him with a quiet voice. Anthony. He looked at her. Emily swallowed. If Noah starts asking questions, real questions, what will you say? Anthony's gaze held hers, steady and serious. And before he answered, Emily realized she wasn't asking about Noah anymore. She was asking about Anthony. about whether he would stay careful, stay patient, or let his need rush in and break the peace she built. Anthony's voice was low. "I'll say whatever protects him." Emily's chest tightened. "And what about what protects me?" Anthony didn't answer right away. His eyes stayed on her, intense, and the pause felt like a door opening, because whatever he said next would change the rules again. And Emily wasn't sure she was ready to hear it. Emily didn't sleep well after that hallway question. Not because Anthony had raised his voice or pushed her. He hadn't. The problem was worse. He'd been uncareful, and careful was convincing. By late morning, Noah was back in full holiday mode. He dragged a basket of ornaments into the living room and announced it was Operation Sparkle. Emily tried to keep the day normal. Music, hot chocolate, last-minute wrapping, because normal was the only thing that kept her steady. Anthony showed up again right on time, not early, not late. He carried a small paper bag and a larger box, both from a toy store. Noah spotted him first and ran to the door like a tiny security guard. "Shoes off!" Anthony sighed like it was the strictest rule he'd ever faced. "Yes, sir." Noah corrected him immediately. "No. Yes, Captain." Anthony looked at Emily as if asking if he should salute. Emily tried not to smile. "Just do what he says." Anthony nodded. "Understood, Captain." Noah beamed and dragged him inside. "Show me the box." Anthony set it down and opened it carefully. Inside was a snow globe, one with a small city, lights, and tiny falling snow when you shook it. Noah froze, eyes wide. "You got one." Anthony kept his voice serious. "You said it would make me less scary." Noah picked it up with both hands, awed. "It worked." Emily laughed once, surprised again by how quickly Anthony could slide into humor without forcing it. Then she caught herself. She didn't want the day to feel too easy. They spent the afternoon on small things. Anthony helped Noah tape paper snowflakes to the windows, straight lines, perfect spacing, like it was a mission. Emily wrapped presents at the coffee table. Every few minutes Noah tried to sneak extra candy canes. Every few minutes Emily said no. Every few minutes Anthony stayed quiet, watching how their rhythm worked. At some point Noah ran to his room to get markers, leaving Emily and Anthony alone near the tree. Emily didn't look at him right away. She focused on the lights, on the ornaments, on anything but the memory of his fingers brushing her hair the day before. Anthony broke the silence gently. "I've been thinking about what you asked." Emily's shoulders tightened. "Which part?" "What protects you?" Anthony said. Emily turned slightly, cautious. "And?" Anthony's voice stayed low, controlled. "No pressure. I'm not asking for anything today. I'm telling you what I'm going to do." Emily crossed her arms. "Go ahead." Anthony met her eyes. "I'm going to move slowly. I'll follow your rules, and I'll let you lead in this house. Noah will never see me disrespect you." Emily stared at him, searching for the old Anthony, the one who believed leading meant controlling. She didn't see him. She saw someone trying to learn. Emily's voice came quiet. "And outside this house?" Anthony nodded once. "Outside I'll keep distance too. Not from him. From danger." Emily's stomach tightened. "Your world." Anthony's jaw flexed. "Yes." Emily watched him. "You're saying all the right things." Anthony didn't argue. "I know." Emily's eyes narrowed. "Then why do I feel like you're still holding something back?" Anthony's gaze stayed steady. "Because I am." Emily's heartbeat picked up. "What?" Anthony took a slow breath. "I found the name of the woman you mentioned, the one who showed you those photos." Emily froze. "Anthony." He lifted a hand slightly, not defensive, just calming. "I'm not going to do anything reckless." Emily's voice sharpened. "You promised." Anthony corrected immediately. "You're right. I didn't promise. I said I would show you." Emily stared at him, jaw tight. Anthony continued, voice calm. "And I'm showing you. I didn't send anyone. I didn't confront anyone. I didn't pull anything from the past into your day. Emily's breath shook slightly. Then why tell me now? Anthony's eyes held hers. Because you deserve to know I'm looking for the truth, but I'm doing it carefully. For you. For Noah. Emily's throat tightened. She hated how reasonable it sounded. Noah came running back with markers, yelling, "I'm back! We're drawing Santa's map!" Emily exhaled, grateful for the interruption, and moved the conversation back into normal. They sat on the floor. Noah drew a messy map of the house and insisted Santa needed a safe landing zone. Anthony offered suggestions with a straight face, pointing out that Santa would need clear access routes. Noah loved it. Emily rolled her eyes. The room felt lighter again. Later, while Noah took a bath, Emily stood by the sink rinsing cups. Anthony leaned against the counter, quiet. Emily spoke without turning. "Don't investigate in my neighborhood." Anthony replied instantly, "I won't." Emily glanced at him, suspicious. That was fast. Anthony's mouth twitched. "Because that rule is easy." Emily looked down at her hands. "Nothing about us is easy." Anthony's voice softened. "It can be lighter than it was." Emily's chest tightened. "I don't know if I can trust you to keep it light." Anthony didn't flinch. "Then don't trust my words." Emily looked up. Anthony held her gaze. "Trust what you see." The silence stretched again, warm, dangerous. Emily forced herself to speak practically. "Noah's going to start asking more questions." Anthony nodded. "I know." Emily swallowed. "And when he does, you can't make him feel like he missed something because of him. You can't make him feel guilty." Anthony's eyes sharpened with seriousness. "I would never." Emily's voice softened slightly. "Then what will you say?" Anthony paused. "I'll tell him I met his mom a long time ago, that I cared about her, that life got complicated, and that I'm here now." Emily's heart pounded. "That's not bad." Anthony's gaze stayed on her. "And I'll tell him you did a good job." Emily's throat tightened. "Anthony." He stepped closer, stopping where he always stopped, just short of touching her. "Emily, I see what you built. I'm not here to break it. I'm here to fit into it." Emily stared at him, pulse loud. Then Noah's voice shouted from the hallway, "Mom, I'm a prune." Emily blinked. "What?" Noah yelled again. "I'm wrinkly, like a prune." Anthony's lips pressed together like he was fighting laughter. Emily groaned. "Noah, get out of the tub." Noah yelled, "I can't. I'm a prune." Anthony finally let out a quiet laugh, short, real. Emily shot him a look. "Don't encourage him." Anthony raised a hand. "I didn't say anything." Emily walked past him toward the bathroom, but Anthony's voice stopped her gently. "Emily." She paused. Anthony's tone turned serious again. "Tonight, when he's asleep, can we talk about what this becomes?" Emily's stomach tightened. "We already talked." Anthony shook his head slightly. "We talked about the past. I'm asking about the future." Emily turned slowly, cautious. "And what future do you want?" Anthony's eyes held hers, steady. "One where I don't visit. I belong." Emily's breath caught. Before she could answer, Noah shouted again, louder, "Mom, prunes need help." Emily exhaled sharply and walked away, but her heart didn't go with her. Because Anthony's words weren't pressure. They were a door. And Emily wasn't sure she could keep walking past it, especially when the future was about to start asking questions out loud. The house was finally quiet. Noah had fallen asleep fast, exhaustion winning after a day that felt bigger than Christmas Eve itself. His bedroom door was half closed, a small nightlight glowing inside. Emily stood in the hallway for a long moment, listening to his steady breathing, letting it calm her own. When she turned back toward the living room, Anthony was there, standing near the window, hands in his pockets, posture controlled but alert, like a man waiting for a verdict. "You didn't have to stay," Emily said softly. Anthony turned. "I wanted to." Emily walked past him and sat on the couch, pulling a blanket over her legs more for comfort than cold. She gestured to the opposite end. "Sit." He did. The distance between them was deliberate, but the tension filled the space anyway. "This is the part where things usually go wrong," Emily said, voice calm but honest. "Where promises get made too fast, where reality gets ignored." Anthony nodded. "Then let's not do that." Emily looked at him. "Then tell me what you want. Clearly, no grand gestures." Anthony took a slow breath. "I want to be present, consistent, predictable." Emily raised an eyebrow. "You've never been predictable." "I know," he said quietly. "That's why I'm choosing it now." Emily studied him. "Choosing it for how long?" Anthony met her eyes. "As long as you let me prove it." Emily's chest tightened. "You still haven't said the hardest part." Anthony didn't hesitate. "I want to be his father." The words landed softly, but they shook the room. Emily looked down at her hands. "Wanting isn't enough." "I know," Anthony replied. "That's why I'm not asking to step in overnight." Emily looked up sharply. "Then what are you asking?" Anthony leaned forward slightly, elbows on his knees. "Structure, boundaries, a plan you control." Emily blinked, caught off guard. "You'd let me control it?" "Yes." The answer came without hesitation, and that scared her more than resistance would have. Emily stood and began pacing slowly, thinking out loud because silence would only trap her. Noah doesn't need sudden changes. He needs routine, familiarity. He needs to trust you before he attaches. Anthony nodded. "I agree." Emily stopped in front of him. "And if he does attach, you don't get to disappear. Not for business, not for pride, not for old habits." Anthony's gaze sharpened with seriousness. "I won't." Emily lifted a hand. "You don't promise." Anthony corrected himself immediately. "I commit." The difference mattered, Emily swallowed. "And my role doesn't change." Anthony looked confused. "Why would it?" Emily's voice grew firmer. "I don't become secondary. I don't get overridden. I don't become the soft one while you decide what's best." Anthony stood slowly, careful not to crowd her. "Emily, you are his anchor. I see that. I respect it." Her throat tightened. "You didn't always." Anthony's voice lowered. "I see it now." Emily searched his face for arrogance, for impatience. She didn't find it. She found restraint. "That scares me," she admitted quietly. Anthony's brow creased. "Why?" "Because if you mess this up," Emily said, voice tight, "it won't just hurt me." Anthony's eyes softened. "I know." Emily exhaled, the weight of 7 years pressing on her chest. "He's going to ask questions, soon." Anthony nodded. "I'm ready." "No," Emily corrected. "You think you are." Anthony accepted that without argument. "Then guide me." Emily stared at him. "You're really doing this?" Anthony's voice was steady. "Yes." She turned away, walking toward the kitchen, needing space to breathe. Anthony didn't follow. That mattered too. Emily leaned against the counter, gathering herself. "If we do this, it starts small." Anthony replied from where he stood. "Tell me how." Emily counted on her fingers. "You show up when you say you will. You leave when I say it's time. You don't undermine rules. You don't bring gifts to compensate for absence." Anthony nodded with each point. "Understood." Emily added quieter. "And you don't tell him you're his father until I say so." Anthony's jaw tightened, but he nodded. "Okay." Emily turned to face him again. "That's the hardest one." Anthony's voice was low. "I know." Emily hesitated. "And when that moment comes, it has to be about him, not about you reclaiming something." Anthony met her eyes. "It will be." Emily searched his face one last time. Then she said it. "You can come tomorrow morning." Anthony blinked. "Tomorrow." "Breakfast," Emily clarified. "Again, nothing special." Anthony's mouth twitched slightly. "Pancakes again?" Emily shrugged. "He'll expect them now." Anthony nodded. "Then pancakes." Emily watched him carefully. "You don't look relieved." Anthony exhaled slowly. Because I know this is just the beginning. Emily nodded. Good. Silence settled between them. Different now. Less sharp, more intentional. Anthony stepped closer, stopping at the familiar boundary. Emily, can I ask you something that's not about him? She hesitated, then nodded. One thing. Anthony's voice softened. Do you still see a future where we're more than this arrangement? Emily's breath caught. She answered honestly. I don't know. Anthony didn't push. That's enough for now. Emily studied him. You're changing. Anthony's gaze stayed on her. So are you. The words weren't romantic. They were true. Emily glanced toward the hallway again, toward Noah's room. If this works, it changes everything. Anthony nodded. I'm counting on that. Emily walked him to the door. The porch light cast a soft glow over his face, making him look less like a man of shadows and more like someone waiting to be let in. He paused before stepping outside. Emily. She met his eyes. Anthony said quietly, Thank you for trusting me this far. Emily swallowed. Don't thank me yet. Anthony nodded, accepting the warning. As the door closed behind him, Emily rested her forehead briefly against it, breathing out slowly. Tomorrow wouldn't be easy. Nothing about this would be. But for the first time in 7 years, she wasn't protecting a future alone. And that thought, terrifying as it was, felt a little like hope. Christmas Eve arrived like a held breath. Emily woke before Noah, not because she wanted to, but because her mind refused to stay quiet. She stood in the kitchen in soft morning light, staring at the tree from across the room, listening to the stillness and trying to decide what kind of day this would be, a day that stayed safe or a day that changed everything. At 7:03 a.m., her phone buzzed. Anthony, outside, pancakes, no pressure. Emily let out a slow breath, walked to the window, and saw him on the porch again. Same dark coat, same serious face, but something in his posture looked different. Not tense, grounded. She opened the door. You're consistent, she said, as if she needed to test him. Anthony held up the bag. You asked for predictable. Noah's footsteps thundered down the hallway. He skidded into the entryway wearing pajama pants and messy hair, blinking like he'd been powered on suddenly. Pancakes? Emily tried to keep her tone calm. Good morning. Noah ignored her completely and pointed at Anthony. You came back. Anthony crouched slightly. I said I would. Noah narrowed his eyes, suspicious. Adults say things they don't do. Emily froze. Anthony didn't flinch. He nodded once, slow and honest. You're right. Noah stared at him like he didn't expect agreement. Anthony added, voice steady. So I'm going to do what I say. Noah studied him for a long second, then walked up and patted Anthony's coat like a seal of approval. Okay. Emily's chest tightened. In the kitchen, the morning turned into plates and syrup and laughter. Noah demanded a pancake tower. Emily refused. Noah appealed to Anthony. Anthony suggested, 2 pancakes stacked is still a tower. Noah accepted. Emily rolled her eyes. Noah ate like he hadn't slept in a week, then demanded Christmas music. He forced Anthony to dance again, and Anthony did it badly on purpose this time, making Noah laugh so hard he fell onto the couch. Emily laughed too, real, warm. And when she looked at Anthony, she caught him watching her like he was collecting a moment he didn't want to lose. Noah ran to his room and came back holding the snow globe Anthony had bought him. He shook it aggressively. Look, it's snowing inside, Anthony warned. Careful. Noah ignored that too. It's fine. I'm in charge of snow. Emily tried to sound strict. Noah. Noah pointed at Anthony. He's the calm one now. Emily blinked. Excuse me. Anthony's mouth twitched. He's not wrong. Emily pretended to be offended. I'm calm. Noah stared at her. You're calm like a tornado is calm. Anthony let out a short laugh. Emily shot him a look. Don't team up with him. Anthony lifted both hands. I'm neutral. Noah declared. Lies. He's on my side. The house felt full, not crowded, full. Full of the kind of energy Emily hadn't felt in years, the kind that came from not carrying everything alone. Later, Noah sat on the floor building his toy car parade again. Emily wrapped the last present at the coffee table. Anthony helped, but helping mostly meant holding tape while Noah gave orders like a tiny general. Then Noah stopped mid-sentence, staring at Anthony like a thought had landed. "Why do you come here?" Noah asked suddenly. Emily's heart jumped. Anthony didn't look at Emily first. He looked at Noah, careful, steady. "Because your mom is important to me," Anthony said simply. Noah's eyes narrowed. "Like, girlfriend important?" Emily nearly choked. Anthony's eyebrows lifted. "That's a strong question." Noah shrugged. "I'm 7. I can ask anything." Emily swallowed, trying not to panic. "Noah," Anthony spoke calmly, "your mom and I knew each other a long time ago." Noah leaned forward. "Did you fight?" Anthony paused. "We made mistakes." Noah stared. "Did my mom cry?" Emily froze again. Anthony's answer came quiet and honest. "Yes." Noah's face tightened, protective. "That's bad." Anthony nodded. "It was." Noah asked, "Did you make her cry?" Emily's pulse hammered. Anthony didn't dodge it. He didn't excuse it. He didn't blame anyone else. He said, "Yes." Emily's throat tightened. Noah looked at Emily, then back at Anthony. "Then why are you here?" Anthony held Noah's gaze. "Because I want to do better." Noah was quiet for a moment, then asked, "Do you want to be my dad?" The room went still. Emily's breath stopped. Anthony's eyes flicked to Emily, quick, asking permission without words. Emily's mind raced. It wasn't the moment she planned. It wasn't controlled. It wasn't safe. But Noah's face was open, curious, serious, and Anthony was steady. Emily swallowed and nodded once. Anthony turned back to Noah, voice low but clear. "Yes, if you'll let me." Noah stared at him for a long time. Then Noah asked, "Are you going to disappear?" Emily's chest tightened so hard it hurt. Anthony didn't promise. He didn't oversell. He didn't make it dramatic. He said, "Noah, I'm going to show up. Every time I say I will." Noah's eyes narrowed. "How do I know?" Anthony looked at him serious. "You watch me." Noah stared. Then he did something that made Emily's eyes burn. He scooted closer and rested his head lightly against Anthony's arm, casual like it was nothing, but it was everything. "Okay," Noah said softly. "But if you make my mom sad again, you're in trouble." Anthony's voice warmed. "Fair." Emily pressed her lips together hard, blinking fast. Noah looked up at her. "Mom." Emily forced her voice steady. "Yes, honey," Noah said. "Can he stay for Christmas?" Emily's breath caught. She looked at Anthony. Anthony didn't speak. He didn't push. He waited, giving her the choice like she mattered more than his need. Emily swallowed. "He can stay." Noah cheered and ran in a circle like a victory lap. Anthony exhaled quietly, relief and emotion flickering across his face too fast for him to hide. Later, Emily stood in the kitchen slicing fruit while Noah played in the living room. Anthony stepped closer, stopping at her boundary. "You didn't plan that," he said softly. Emily shook her head. "No." Anthony's voice was quiet. "You were brave." Emily scoffed softly. "I'm terrified." Anthony's eyes held hers. "So am I." Emily's throat tightened. "Don't ruin this." Anthony nodded once. "I won't." Emily whispered, almost too quiet. "I still care." Anthony's gaze softened. "I know." Emily swallowed. "No, you don't. Because if you did, you'd realize how much it scares me that I still want you." Anthony didn't move, but his eyes darkened with emotion. "Emily." She turned to face him fully, voice steady but low. "I'm not the same woman." Anthony nodded. "I don't want the same story." Emily blinked. Anthony's voice softened. "I want a better one." The words hit her chest like warmth. Noah yelled from the living room. "Mom! Dad!" Look! Emily froze. Anthony's head turned sharply. He said... Emily's eyes widened. He did! Noah ran in, holding the unfinished drawing from his room. The blank stick figure had been filled in, tall, serious, with a little smile. Noah proudly announced, "I finished it." Emily stared at the drawing, throat tight. Anthony's voice came out rough. "You drew me." Noah nodded. "Yes, but I made you nicer." Anthony swallowed hard. "Thank you." Noah pointed at the little smile. "See, you can do it." Anthony's mouth twitched into a real smile this time, small but unmistakable. Noah clapped. "Yes!" Emily laughed through the tightness in her throat. Noah held up the drawing like a contract. "So it's official. Christmas is 3 people now." Emily looked at Anthony, heart pounding, and saw something she hadn't seen in 7 years. Not power, not pride. Presence. Anthony met her gaze and spoke quietly, only for her. "If you'll let me, I want us. Not just him and me. All of it." Emily's breath caught. She didn't answer with words. She stepped closer and kissed him, slow, careful, real. It wasn't desperate. It was chosen. When she pulled back, her forehead rested against his for a brief second. Anthony whispered, "Thank you." Emily whispered back, "Don't waste it." Noah yelled, "Ew! But also yay!" Emily laughed, startled. Anthony let out a quiet laugh, too. And in that moment, with Christmas music in the background, syrup still on the table, and a child's drawing on the counter, Emily understood what had changed everything. Not the secret, not the timing, but the fact that Anthony DeLuca finally came back without taking over. He came back to belong. And for the first time in 7 years, Emily let herself believe it could last.